We are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome back for the second year in a row, Edwin Hill, here to give us the inside scoop on his brand new book, The Secrets We Share, here in this exclusive pre-launch event. Edwin, give us the scoop on The Secrets We Share.
Oh, thanks so much for having me today. Oh, let me actually show you the real cover. Sara has the arc, and we actually changed the cover after the arcs were printed. So
Ooh.
this is the real cover. The pink cover you may see around here and there. So the Secrets We Share is a story about it's about a Boston police detective named Natalie Kavanaugh who has a deep, dark secret from her childhood. She starts to investigate a current murder when a young girl sort of stumbles upon a body in an abandoned factory, and she starts to see that there are connections between the current murder and something that happened in her childhood. And as the story evolves, she has to deal with some secrets that she's kept from her childhood.
Ooh, well, I know I love a good secret, and I can't wait to get the skinny on these sisters and their secrets. So we're going to dive right into it in just 1 minute. I just want to welcome everyone who's watching with us. We are broadcasting live to 6 destinations on Facebook and YouTube. So no matter where you're watching from, you are in the right place. This is the right time. And you know how we roll for hashtag Mystery Monday, because you know Mondays can be murder. So I present you with my featured handpicked authors, and you get to ask them anything. So ask Edwin about these sisters. Ask him about writing a standalone after stepping away from his series. What's that like? Ask him about what secrets he's holding. We have a lot of questions for Edwin. So we can jump right into it. I'm gonna kick off. So Edwin, why these sisters? So we've got Glenn and we've got Natalie. What was the inspiration for writing, first of all, sisters, and second of all, these particular sisters and their secret?
Sure. This novel was so strange. Like how I got to this story was like a very long and winding path. I had a
Ooh.
lot of false starts on
Ooh.
the book. So my I think I give my agent a heart attack every now and then. When I first proposed this book to my agent, it was about a elite private school in New Hampshire, and it was run by a couple. And I started writing that. And oh, the other thing you have to know is that I started writing, I sent the proposal in, I think around March 1st, 2020. And I think we all remember where we were on in March of 2020. So I sent it in, the proposal, it got accepted, and then the world started changed. And it was just a weird time. It was so hard to concentrate. And it was also hard to do any research because you couldn't go anywhere. So I kept working on that book, and then it just wasn't working. So I kind of scrapped the original idea, and I came up with a new idea about a therapist, a psychologist who spied on his clients. And the therapist had a brother who had just gotten out of jail, and he had two sisters. And so I kept writing the novel, and the therapist's role kept getting smaller and smaller. And then the two sisters and the brother just kind of fell out of the book, and which often happens for me. And then the two sisters, their roles just kept getting bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden, the novel was about the sisters. There's this scene at the very beginning of the novel. So anyway, I was in a complete panic because I had a manuscript due to my editor, and there is this scene at the very beginning of the novel that sort of kicks off the action of the novel. This young girl named Mavis goes into this abandoned factory. This factory is located in West Roxbury in Boston. She goes into this abandoned factory and she finds a dead body. And I didn't come up with that scene until a few months before the manuscript was due. But once I came up with that scene, everything started to fall in place. I kind of figured out what roles the two sisters took. I figured out how the young girl was related to those two girls, and the story sort of rolled on from there.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Edwin, I love knowing the inside scoop of how this nucleus of an idea, the seed of an idea grew and then evolved and then grew very differently and very sideways. What an incredible, I mean, because that is so different, the original that
Oh
you
God, yeah.
submitted is so different from what we ended up with. Wow. Okay. Well, let's get into the comments. So I just want to tell everyone, if you're watching from a private Facebook group, we're broadcasting to 2 private Facebook groups tonight. If you're watching tonight, you have to give Facebook permission to see your photo, or you can stay very mysterious. This is a mystery and thriller Maven series. So we have a mystery guest who's saying, yes, in March 2020, I began drinking heavily because I learned that I was stuck at home with my 4 teenage daughters all day, every day. I think you are all of us, friend. I love that. Another is saying hi.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
I have a feeling this is Stephanie Cooper, Bookstagrammer extraordinaire, because she is at Fire Pit and Books. I think she's giving us a clue with those fiery balls there. Anissa, welcome to the conversation. She's saying, hello, Sara and Edwin. I am excited to hear more about this book. So Anissa is also an amazing Bookstagrammer. Anissa, let us know what questions you have for Edwin specifically about this book. Because y'all, it is racking up all the praise. I knew it. It's me, Stephanie Cooper. I know you, Stephanie Cooper.
Hello,
the fire
Stephanie.
clue was I like how you gave us a little clue, but still stayed mysterious. You're totally on brand. She says, you know me. Listen, we're gonna level up here, where every week we're gonna now make the authors guess, solve a mystery while we're interviewing them. Edwin, clue number 1. So this book is getting crazy good praise, y'all. So Library Journal awarded it a starred review. Edwin, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
This suspenseful story will have readers careening from one erroneous conclusion to the next. So let's talk about that one first, because knowing how much it changed, how did you pull off this careening? Like how from a craft perspective, how did you careen the reader?
Oh gosh, it is interesting, because writing a mystery novel is really like, sometimes it feels like you've taken a jigsaw puzzle and you've dumped it out on the table, but you've turned all the pieces upside down and you're trying to put it together without looking at the picture and without looking at the pieces, the patterns on the pieces. And that is sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but that's sort of that's how I feel when I'm writing a mystery novel. For the first, sometimes it's like the first 80% of the time. With this one, it was actually it wasn't all the way up till the end, and then there's this magical day where all of a sudden, for me, you hope it's going to happen, where all of the pieces all of a sudden start fitting together, and you're like, oh, that's why that happened, and that's why that happened. You do have to backtrack sometimes. You have to pull out the things that aren't working. Like I'll try a lot of different things. I'll often use characters. I'll have characters in the novel that don't make the final novel just because they're sitting around doing absolutely nothing. Or there are these plot lines that are sitting around doing absolutely nothing.
Listen, we all know someone like that.
I know. So I'll give you an example. So in this novel, there were originally 3 children. There were 3 12-year-olds. There was the opening scene where the kid goes into the factory that sort of sets off all the action, the inciting incident, as they say. That was a kid named Andre, a boy named Andre. And then one of the sisters, there are 2 sisters, Natalie and Glenn, and they both have secrets. Glenn had 2 daughters named Mavis and Astrid. And when I finished the draft, this was after I added that scene. When I finally finished that draft, I do this thing called a character analysis, and I just figure out who's sitting around doing nothing and who can I get rid of. And so I looked at these kids and I was like, why do I have 3 12-year-olds in this novel? There's actually a 4th 12-year-old who did stay. But I was like, why do I have these 3 12-year-olds? 2 of them are doing nothing, and one of them only does something at the very beginning of the novel and then disappears. And so I looked at that and I thought, let's make one of those 2 girls of Glenn, let's make one of them a really important character and axe these other 2 kids. So I sort of took all of the scenes that I had done with Andre and I made Mavis do them. I got rid of Mavis's sister Astrid and I got rid of Andre. And then the funny thing was, because I liked Mavis a lot in that opening scene, I made her into a POV character, which meant that I then had to backfill the novel with all these POV scenes from Mavis's point of view. And I'm really glad I did it, because the feedback that I'm getting from readers is that readers really love Mavis as a character. And if I hadn't done that, she might not have been there.
Whoa. So Edwin Hill will now be known as Vicious Edwin because
I act 12-year-old.
So if you're not pulling your weight, if you are, quote, sitting around doing nothing, you will get the axe. Astrid got the axe. I just want to say adios, Astrid. Sorry we never got to meet you. Bye-bye. Wow. So good to know about that. Catherine Holland, welcome to the conversation. She is saying congratulations on the new release, Edwin.
Thanks, Catherine.
It is out tomorrow. Hooray. George Beach, welcome to the conversation. Saying good evening, Sara and Edwin. George, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. Stephanie Cooper has chosen to unmask herself. She is revealing her true identity from the mystery bookstagrammer. Here she is. Stephanie, welcome to the conversation. Good to see you. Okay, so let's talk about some of these amazing. Questions already coming in. Let me get to those first. Catherine would like to know, how did you decide to write a standalone? So let's I love every part of this. So let's take this part by part. So let's start there.
Well, writing a series is really rewarding, because you get to hang out with characters for a really long time, and they get to grow over time. So for people who haven't heard of me before, I write a series. You can see them behind me right here. The Hester Thursby mystery series. Hester is a research librarian at Harvard, and she finds missing people on the side. I have 3 books in that series, and I love that series, and I love Hester, and I love all of the characters that surround her. And I'd love to see her grow over, and her supporting characters grow over the course of the 3 novels. The downside of writing a series is that you stay with the same characters, and you also stay with the same type of book. I mean, like a Hester Thursby book is a certain thing. And so if you want to try something else, you can't really do it in a Hester Thursby book. And so one of the things I really liked about the standalone is I could kind of go anywhere I wanted. Like anyone can be good, anyone can be bad. And you can kind of you can fool your reader in ways that you can't with a series. With a series, you have to protect your core characters. I mean, no one's going to want to read a Hester Thursby novel where Hester turns into a serial murderer or anything like that.
Talk about a twist.
I know. I mean, I could be really bold. I could do like a Game of Thrones type thing and be really bold and do something like that. But in general, I don't think that's going to work. So anyway, it was just kind of fun, and I did want to try something this is like more Hester Thursby books are like sort of like noir, and this book is more like a domestic thriller.
Okay, perfect. Let's get to the second part of Catherine's excellent questions. Will you continue the Hester Thursby series as well? And then we'll take the third part as well.
Oh, sure. So I will, when I finish the 3rd book in that series, which is called Watch Her, there is a tiny non-plot related cliffhanger at the end that I hope is not annoying to anyone.
I read it. I was not annoyed.
So I did put that tiny little cliffhanger in there. And if you read that book, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I want to explore the question that cliffhanger poses to Hester and to her family. And so I do have a book outlined for that, but right now I'm working on another standalone book. But I hope to get back to Hester eventually.
Ooh, okay. Then the third part of Catherine's question is, do you have a preference for writing standalone versus series? Great question.
Yeah, I like both. So one of the nice things about a series, again, is you get to stick with the characters, and you can map their character progression, their character arcs over a few books. So someone once told this to me, and I wish I could give credit, but I can't remember who said it to me. But this person said, when you write series, write in books of 3. So that means that new readers can kind of enter the series every 3rd book. And so you want to give your characters a character arc that go over sort of a 3-book series and sort of end any like storylines that you're carrying out over those 3 books. after the 3 books are over. So I'm really like, if I got back to the Hester Thursby series, I'd be really excited to sort of think about where she's going to go over the next 3 books. Hester is moving into her 40s. She's 12 years younger than I am. She is moving into her 40s, and the child that lives with her, whose name is Kate, is getting older, and so I'd be really interested in exploring where their relationship goes. One thing that she will be doing is going down to meet her estranged mother and finding out what happens with that. So anyway, that would be exciting. But I also love standalones because you can kind of do anything you want, and you're not hemmed in by genre. You're not hemmed in by any choices that you made. I mean, like, I decided to make Hester Thursby a librarian a long, long time ago, and Hester Thursby is a librarian. So.
Yay! Well, Catherine, thank you for the great question, and Edwin, thank you for the great answers. Because Anissa was also wondering about the standalone versus series component. So it's so fascinating to talk to an author who writes both, and to sort of get the inside scoop. Anissa has a follow-up question. She says, do you lead your characters, or do they lead you? And then the second part of that question, is it different at different writing phases, different phases of writing this book? Great question, Anissa.
I would say yes and no. I mean, I always have sort of a rough outline of the novel when I start. But I would say my creativity, my lack of organization, and my lack of skill at sort of like remembering what I'm doing helps the characters sort of lead me here and there. I think like the character that I was talking about a few minutes ago, Mavis, was a really good example of a character who sort of popped into the novel and populated much of the novel in a way that I wasn't expecting. But the novel is the protagonist in this novel is Natalie, who's one of the 2 sisters, and she was always the protagonist. And I always kind of knew who she was in the back of my mind. I mean, she's like a tough by the book cop. She drinks a lot. She's single. She's like, she's not the happiest person in the world. So I always kind of knew who she was.
Interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for these great questions. Catherine is saying, thank you for the great answers. These are great answers, right, Catherine? Thank you for your great questions. And Edwin, thank you for your great answers. And it's so fascinating to get this insight into your process. I didn't know you were disorganized. I will be putting that in my Edwin file.
You should see what surrounds me.
Like what?
Outside of the camera view.
Ooh, like what? Are you a hoarder, Edwin?
I would say it's chaos.
Okay, chaos. I relate. Edwin, Peter Swanson, who's the best-selling author of Every Value Break and The Kind Worth Killing, also raving about this book, saying, and I'm going to pop this up so we can all read it together, full of whiplash twists and dark family secrets. Edwin Hill's new standalone is clever and chilling. Be advised not to trust anyone. I feel like I should have dramatic music. Dun, dun, dun. Edwin, why, when you're sitting there through these many, many iterations and knowing now how much that book has changed, what do you think? Did those twists and turns, the clever and the chilling and moments, did you have to go back and insert them, or did they come to you? Thanks for all the hearts up on Facebook, you guys. Did they come to you and you're like, my God, that was a surprise. How brilliant, how clever. Or were you like, ooh, I need a little more cleverness on page 274. How did that go?
A lot of them came to me. Some of them, it was sort of a mix. I mean, I'll tell you one that was. So I set out to write this book as something I wanted it to be fun, because I was starting it in March of 2020, and there was nothing in the world was fun right then. And I wanted it to. I love books that just like kind of shock you all the time, like where you're just kind of surprised after every chapter. And I was like, surely I can write a novel where you are just constantly surprised. And Peter's Peter, if anyone has not already discovered Peter Swanson, he's a great example of an author who does that really, really well. His newest novel is called 9 Lives, and it's sort of a riff on, and then there were Agatha Christie's, and then there were none. It's just a really good book. Anyway, I just wanted there to be a surprise after every chapter, every couple chapters, and I wanted to just take the reader on a fun ride. And so I will tell you one thing that I sort of had planned out. So there's this thing that you do when you're writing. They're called plot points, and it's just basically a map to the plot, and it basically makes sure that something exciting happens periodically. And so I had decided what the very middle of your book is called the midpoint, and it's exactly what it sounds. It's the very middle of the book, and I'd figured out what the midpoint was for this book. And one of the really great things that I think I did, this is the thing that I'm really proud of, is I wrote to the midpoint, and I was like, the book's too boring. As a reader, I thought this book is too boring. And so I took the midpoint, what was originally supposed to happen at the midpoint, and I moved it all the way up to what's called the first plot point, which happens about a quarter of the way through the book. So I compacted the entire half of the book into the first quarter of the book, and it really picked up the pace of the book. And it provided this, there is a surprise on the first quarter of the book that I'm really proud of. And it's all because I moved the plot point up like that. But then once I did that, I had to come up with more surprises to happen, right? Because I'd taken the original midpoint and moved it forward. So I had to basically add more plot and add more surprises after that. So that was where I had to sort of come up with new things.
Wow. I'm fascinated to know that used to be halfway through the book. You have to read halfway to get to that. And then all of a sudden, bazinga, it's at the beginning. I love that. Margaret saying midpoint. Oh, good. Glad we're not getting into high school geometry. Shivering. Shivers. I know. I too was wondering where Edwin was going to go with it. I was waiting for him to pull out the chalkboard, get the laser pointer, and start doing the math. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that great insight, coming off of Peter's wonderful blurb. Charlie Donlia, also he's the best-selling author of The Suicide House, raving about this book, deeming it Shari LaPena meets Ruth Ware, a compulsively readable domestic thriller about two sisters and the secrets they share. And the secrets are doozies. And not your usual, oh, I borrowed your hat and lost it kind of sister stuff. I say as someone with two sisters. So high praise on that. Shari LaPena meets Ruth Ware. So let's talk about what makes something a domestic thriller versus a psychological thriller versus another kind of thriller. What does that mean?
Oh my gosh, now you're testing me on my subgenre knowledge. But I would say a domestic thriller takes place in between households. I mean, that's how I'd describe it. It's, this actually, I will say this is like a domestic thriller, but it's also a procedural. There's quite a bit of police work. But a domestic
books have, which you see in Hester, the way that she looks for someone is very police procedurally, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. I love that. I love watching the process of finding out what's happening. So I would say a domestic thriller is something that happens between households, between sort of regular people. And I mean, Shari LaPena I love Shari LaPena, and she's a really good example. I mean, her novels tend to take place in sort of upstate New York. They sort of take place in my novels usually take place in Boston, but hers take place in the suburbs, and they usually seem to take place in like in developments where all the neighbors sort of know each other and all the neighbors know each other's business, and that's where the drama sort of comes out in that sort of knowledge about each other.
Ooh, I love that. And I love how you write about Boston, because the way that you do it, it feels very atmospheric, I think would be the correct reviewer term. But you can taste it, touch it, feel it, smell it. You really capture the sense, the energy of Boston and its little neighborhoods. So that's something that I really enjoy.
Oh, thank you.
Everybody, I just want to remind you, this book ain't even out yet. It's coming out tomorrow. So pre-order it tonight. Here's the link. Support our favorite woman-owned bookstore, Murder by the Book. And the good folks at the store will send it out to you tomorrow when this book drops. So here's the link. Grab your copy right now. Patricia says, this sounds so good. I love finding new reads on these interviews. Yay, Patricia, thank you so much. That's the whole goal. We're here to meet authors. We're here to talk to our favorite authors. I'm here to introduce you to your favorite authors and to introduce you to your next favorite authors. So this is your chance to talk to them and meet new people, and let us know if you have any questions for Edwin. Margaret says this is making her wonder what someone could pull out of her past and turn into a big secret. Ooh, it sounds like Margaret. Now I want to know what big secrets you're holding. I'm going to have to get my tiny magnifying glass. Edwin, do you have siblings, and what's your connection to siblings and secrets?
Oh, I have a sister, and I really, I mean, I would say, like, in this novel, I wanted, and I would say this is somewhat true of my sister and I wanted the two of them are very different. That's one of the things
Yeah.
that I wanted to highlight. Natalie, who's the police officer, is very straight-laced, very by the book. Whereas her sister Glenn is a high achiever. She was a investment. She worked for a consulting firm, and when she kind of got sick of being a consultant, she started this baking blog that sort of took off. And at the start of the novel, she's about to release her first cookbook. She's sort of sitting on the precipice of success, which is like the place I love to explore in writing. And the events of the novel sort of thwart that success. And so what I really wanted to do was to show that they're very different. They definitely know how to rub each other the wrong way. They know what buttons to push. But in the end, they're actually super supportive of each other. They have each other's back throughout the entire novel. In fact, when I first saw the back cover copy for this novel, it sort of like tried to pitch them as being like rivals to each other. And I was like, no, they're not rivals to each other. They're actually they're good friends, and they're good sisters, and they're very supportive of each other.
Yay. Well, thank you for making the sisters very supportive of each other. It's fun because when you see who they the book opens with them as kids, and it's fun to see them then and to see their childish, pushing, shoving, competitive, normal sister kid stuff, and then to see them now in present day and the people that they have become. Both similar and different, is something that I thought was really fun and really interesting, a dynamic that you took on. Another blurb that I really loved was from Femi Coyote, raving a superbly crafted thriller that delivers on every level. Hill is a master storyteller that leads the reader through a maze, expertly unveiling one twist after another. And now I think, knowing that, when I read that, I was like, wow, what an incredible review. But now knowing just how twisty and turny that maze was from the first draft to the final product, it's even more fascinating to see that. So thank you for sharing that inside scoop.
If anyone hasn't, Femi wrote a book called Lightseekers. It's set in Nigeria, and it's really amazing. I highly recommend that to anyone out there looking for a new author. He has a new book coming out soon too.
Oh, how fabulous. Great to know. Thank you so much. First Clue awarded you a starred review, saying this is a bold, ambitious novel with a big multi-generational storyline and a smart balance between mystery and suspense. They think it's for fans of Robert Brinza and Karen Slaughter. It's so fascinating to see who they liken you to. Edwin, when you were writing, do you see yourself more as a Shari LaPena Ruth Ware mashup, or do you see yourself as a Robert Brinza Karen Slaughter mashup?
I definitely liked the
or other.
Oh no, I'll take them all, honestly, any one of them. I would say that I have a sort of like a mix of Shari LaPena, but then there is this there is a undercurrent of police procedural there, and dark, gritty police procedural. So an author here in New England that a lot of folks like is Bruce Robert Coffin. He writes a series set in Portland, and I really like the way he pulls that city into his work. And he's actually a former police officer and a good friend of mine. And so that was another author I thought about as I was writing this.
Yes, absolutely. Bruce Coffin's John Byron series is one of my favorite police procedurals. Tana French's Irish Murder Squad, another.
Any comparison to Tana French, I will take.
Maybe we should create our own mashup right here, right now, Edwin. We could see who we think this is like. Margaret saying all of the good stuff rolled into one. I'll take it. Absolutely. These are all such, and I like how she gave the cake emoji because these all are very, very tasty, very tasty descriptions and ideas. Again, you guys, I want to remind you the book is not even out yet. It is coming out tomorrow, which is so exciting. I'm not going to hold up mine because apparently I have the wrong cover.
You have your cover is going to be a collector's item.
Oh my God, I love that. Also, I love my pink cover. But yes, that's why it will be a collector's item. And next time I see you, Edwin, you'll have to sign it. Then it'll be truly. Then I can eBay it for thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. So everybody grab your copy tonight and then hop over to the Facebook group to continue the conversation and let us know what you think about it. That's where all the good tea is spilled. So here is the link. Grab it. Edwin, I want to thank you so much for coming on the night before your pub day to give us the inside scoop, to give us all this insider knowledge. It's been so really cool to know how this book started out and how it has woven its way through the maze of the past 2 years to become what it is now. I love it even more now.
Oh, thank you. I was delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And I will see you next Monday for hashtag Mystery Monday. Thanks for all the hearts, because Mondays can be murder. Take care. Oh, Anissa's saying thank you so much. Great conversation. Anissa, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye, everyone.